Today I'll be refurbishing a AMD chipset here, and the stuff I will be using are quite obviously a jig to hold the chip in place. I put a bit of tissue around just so that all the residue from the flux, or the flux itself, is not sort of going onto the jig itself, so it's much easier and I don't have to sort of spend hours cleaning the jig. Usually I use Amtech flux, but this is genuine Reball flux. Just be careful what you buy off eBay. There are a lot of cheap imitation flux available on eBay. So, and I'm using I believe it's a 10cc or a 10 mil syringe, and the Reball flux does come in a tub, which I've got it sort of in my chiller. And Hunton HT, let me just find the box for you. Hunton HT90. That's what I'm using as the reballing jig itself. The stencil itself, which has a 0.5mm solder ball. Genuine goot wick, which is CP3515. What that effectively means, the 3515 is this is a bit wider. Okay, the standard length 1.5 meter, as with anything else. Now, I haven't got another goot wick smaller than this size to sort of. Let me just see if I may have anything smaller, just to sort of demonstrate something, but. No, they're all just sort of CP3515. Let me just check here. Yep, they're all CP3515, because it's much easier to sort of clean the pads off the GP. Well, yeah, clean the GPU itself with something a bit thicker. So that's that, and. 0.5mm leaded solder ball, what I will be using. A fume extractor, which is over here. Okay, this is a custom built fume extractor. I'll be using the Metcal MX5000 series soldering station with a quite a very sort of a nice and specific tip. The part number for the tip, it's a flat tip, so it's a lot easier to sort of clean, and the part number for that is SMTC-060. That's the part number for the solder cartridge. So, and finally, I believe this tub contains distilled water. So what I tend to do is I tend to sort of squirt it on my sponge, just so that I can clean the tip of the cartridge. And as always, remember, when you're sort of finishing work and you want to sort of switch off your soldering station, do clean the tip with this. Let me sort of get rid of this. I don't know if you can see it. Sorry, it's got a tape over it. Tippy. So it's just literally sort of it's a tip cleaner basically, and use a bit of solder to sort of what's the word for it now? Fuck it. All you're doing is just making sure that the cartridge is not sort of has some solders on the tip basically, so that it prevents it from oxidizations and things like that. So you need to sort of make sure that you do that every time you sort of finish using a cartridge. Right, just bear with me for 1 sec. Shh. Right, okay, I'm back now. Just sort of zoom in a little bit. So what I will be, no, let me just sort of, I'll do that after. So what you want to do, first thing first, is first of all I've turned the fan on and the soldering station on. Okay, first thing first is you want to take all the excessive solder from the actual BGA. So just pretend that this has been taken off from a logic board, just for the argument's sake. I'll be using leaded solder, which is SN6337, I believe it is, for sort of for cleaning the pads on the GPU. So the proper word I was looking for is tinning the tip. That's the proper word. My mind went just blank for a second or two. Okay, so and first step would be is to literally hover, just a couple of stroke. This tip makes it would make your life a lot easy. So just a couple of passes. You're only just sort of hovering over it. You're not literally sort of putting pressure, because as soon as you do that, you'd either scrape away the soldering mask or you'll rip out pads because of the excessive heat that's being penetrated on the PCB. When I say PCB, I mean the GPU itself, the back of the GPU. Okay, so the next stage is to apply a bit more flux. And I'm going to zoom in now. You can get a nice clear view. Okay. And apply a bit more flux. Okay. And then grab yourself this goot wick, and then again nice and gently just hover over that. I tend to just go in a round motion, but it just depends. If it gets awkward, then I tend to sort of go up and down sort of a thing to clean the BGA chip. As you can see, I'm just nice and gently doing it, just so that I don't damage the pads on the back of the BGA chip. And unfortunately, the chip has become loose from the stencil, or the jig I should say. Sort of line this up again. It's a bit of a pity that. Okay, so that's done. Let me grab myself some. Just keep my hands clean from flux, because I'm touching everything else. So sometimes I shouldn't be doing it, but sometimes I tend to just grab the tip of the soldering iron without sort of putting any gloves on. So okay, so going back into the cleaning process again. Go round like this if you want. Just a couple of passes. And I did forget to sort of mention the Insat's own flux, what I will be using very shortly to make the thing sticky. Now, the other thing to remember is, as I said to you before, this is exactly what I will be doing every time I use one of my cartridges. Just to clean, stick it in there, leave it there for a few seconds. If you can see, no, you didn't see that. Okay, and then just sort of, as you can see, it's nice and look at that, and this also sort of helps tinning it. So now I'm going to sort of quickly just sort of dab it onto the sponge. I'll show you what I'm doing. As daft as it may sound, but let me get it off. Zoom. Okay, and all I'm doing is just quick dab, and then onto the station, and then that's it basically. This. Right, the next stage is to clean this. Now, the thing to remember is these are tacky flux, so as soon as it sort of cools down, it becomes very sticky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat it up. The temperature set at 150 degrees Celsius. I'm just going to sort of let it heat up and use 100% IPA and a cotton bud. Just quickly go through, so the cleaning process is far quicker and easier. And it's pretty much clear, but I'll still sort of utilise the other half of the other side of the cotton bud. Okay, don't need the hot air station now. I'm going to turn off the fan because it's very annoying. Right, now I can take the chip off this jig, and the jig can go to rest. And I'll go around the chip and just give it a nice sort of a clean. And the chip itself is clean now, very clean. I would like to ultrasonic the chip, but then I've got to bake the chip for a good half a day, purely because of the fact that it'll absorb a lot of moisture. So I don't want to do that. You're probably wondering why there is a Captain tape on top of this die itself, and the reason for that is basically when you're using a dark infrared rework system, because it's like a mirror, it's a mirror-like finish, it'll bounce off the heat basically. So to sort of prevent that reflection, you know, I tend to use a bit of a Captain tape over it. On some other videos I may have just sort of used a black marker on top of the Captain tape so that it sort of absorbs better heat, but I just didn't bother with this time around. So okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, let me zoom out, I'm going to grab my stencil and my reballing jig. I will now place let me just undo this. Position the chip as shown here, just firm tight, so it's not moving, it's not going to come out. Now you want to sort of work out which way it fits, and where you see this little sort of a corner, where these corners have got solder ball hole, that one doesn't. I'm going to sort of line it up with, let me see if I can get a better image, through this, so it'll be the solder ball missing here is the solder ball missing on the chip here as well, if you know what I'm on about. Can you see it? I think so. Okay, so now that will go on top of it. I'm not bothered about lining it up now. I'll do that very shortly. And unfortunately I did miss out some of the other tools I'll be using, so I just couldn't remember sort of everything that we'll be sort of using, so sorry about that. But other things, now what I'm doing now is I'm nice and gently lining up the stencil with the solder pads on the GPU. So I may need to slacken that a little bit, just so that it makes it easier for me to move the stencils around nice and easily. Okay, and I think I'm good to go. No, I'm not. Uh-oh. Right, let me just try and get this a bit lower and see if you can sort of see what I'm trying to do. Perfect. I think it's perfect. Okay, I think, yeah. So what I'm looking for is just making sure that I'm lining up I can see all the solder pads through this clearly. So when the solder ball sits on, it'll be sitting on top of the pads directly. Okay, so now I've used the Allen key to tighten up the stencil holder. Just make sure that it is lined up. Now I can take this off, leave that on the side. Next stage is this flux I was on about before. It's from Insat International in the UK. This is RMA flux. So what I'm going to do now is, it's very sticky, this stuff. The whole idea of using this is so that it makes it sticky, and when I drop the solder ball onto it, it's holding onto it. So as I'm lifting this off, not all the solder balls are coming away from the BGA chip, but I will have a few of them coming up. You just can't sort of prevent that from happening. Only a tiny drop, and then just massage it until it sort of evaporates and becomes sticky. Okay, I'm just going to leave it for a second, clean my hands. Okay, so next stage, I don't need this anymore now, so that can go back into the chiller. So just okay. So the next stage is to check and see if this has become a little bit tacky. Sticky? Tacky? Yep. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dab of solder, probably a size of a rice grain, or even less than that. Yeah, so say about a size of a rice grain. Okay. Now I'm going to massage this in, and unfortunately these shitty gloves, they tend to tear very easily. Okay, and as I'm sort of spreading, massaging I should say, or spreading, whatever it is you want to call it, the paste, I can feel the stickiness. Okay, superb. So I'm quite pleased with that. The thing to remember is, unfortunately, the GPU market, BGA rework market is a bit of a troll, because what's happening at the moment is there's a massive amount of Chinese suppliers that are selling chips as new, but they're refurbished chips, or faulty chips, and they're just reballing them and just sort of distributing them. There may be a handful of suppliers like Golden Chipset who are selling genuine new chips. But you've got to be careful with who you're buying. You know, I don't tend to buy bulk of chips. I buy them as and when I need them. So just be very wary when you're buying BGA chipsets off the internet, basically. Again, AliExpress, you've got to be very careful what you're buying from them as well, because there's a lot of refurbished chips are floating around at the moment. And refurbish, if it's working, fine, but I'd be dead honest with you, more than likely they're going to be sort of, they've got graphic issues like artifacts and things like that. So I would keep well away from any refurbished chips. Okay, so I'm just doing a final inspection, just making sure that everything's nice and clean and mirror-like finish, as you can see here. Okay, right, so we're running into 20 minutes now, so let's crack on with it. So, solder ball. Right, let's put this back on. Okay, give this a bit of a shake. Let's turn my soldering station off. And it's a 0.5 mil, 0.5 mil, what it says on the stencil. And nice and gently just dab, if you can see it, just dab a bit of a solder on, not a lot, just enough that the area is covered. Now what I'm going to do, and I bloody hate this glove, but I'm going to say, guys, let me just change this freaking shitty glove, because I don't want to touch any of the flux without any protection on, because flux is a cause of cancer, and it does say on the tubs and on the manufacturer's website, so be very careful when you're handling flux. Right, what I'm doing is I'm just going to go around like this and just get this solder ball. So let me get a closer view, see if you can see it better. Okay, and see if it's even closer than that, can I? Yes, well done. Okay, so I believe I'm satisfied with that, so nope, won't focus that close, so that's as far as we're going to get, unfortunately. Next time I'm going to change my worktop to white worktop, so the lights is bouncing up and the background looks a lot better. So that's when I'm due to sort of change these worktops. Okay, now I'm going to put the rest of the solder ball back in to the tub. I should say unused. I'm going to get a cocktail stick and I'm going to sort of just free these little solder balls. There's no need to sort of waste them. Okay. Whoops. I can see one solder balls have come off. Cheeky fucker. Okay, the rests are alright. Let me just sort of put them in the tub. Okay. Now I do see that there is one solder ball that's come off from here, and I have one solder ball out here. So I need to, where is it gone now? It's jumped all the way up here, that's fine, no problem, no probs. Let me just sort of dab a little bit of a flux on this, just so that I can pick up the solder ball. See if I can get it sort of in your view. Okay, where is it gone? Where are you hiding, you piece of sugar? Ah, there it is. It's come up here. Now, all I'm going to do is stick it there, and then as I'm sticking that one, another one comes off from the side. Well, next. Okay. So now on a closer inspection, everything seems to be okay. Let me just sort of show you here. There you go. Okay. Usually I'd inspect it on the microscope. Yeah, I did see a solder ball here, an extra one, from what I can gather. So normal circumstances, I would actually have a closer view into the microscope. Shall we sort of try and see if I can get a view on the microscope? Shall we? Yes, why not? Because this is a newly purchased 4K camcorder what I bought, Panasonic's. I think it's what model is it? It's VX980. So let me move some stuff around my room just so I can get a bit more of a better view, if possible. Okay, and okay, let's get this here. Let's turn the lights. I'm not quite sure it'd let me do that. I'm not quite sure it would let me do that, but I'll try my best. I'll try my best for you guys. So now let's bring it out here and let me see if I can get an angle there. I'm not sure if it would let me, but okay, just about there. Beautiful. And I'll try and hold it as still as possible. So that's that. So there we go. Okay, so we're quite satisfied with that then. Wow, that was difficult, that. Vision engineering. Use your bloody brain. Fulfill customer demands. This is what happens with these shitty gloves. I just don't get it, man. What's going on here with this bloody glove? That's the second one that's literally going. Or is it? Okay, so before I lift this, I'm going to get my hot plate out. So get this, and I'm using Metcal PCT 100 hot plate. It's a hot air one. I also need to plug in the cable, electric cable, the back of it. Okay, power it on. Let it set. I'll set it for six. I think it's 6. Marker 6. I think it's 350 degrees Celsius output from the actual heating element from this. So let's just sort of let me throw all this in the bin. Let this bugger warm up. This is quite instant, so I don't necessarily need to keep it at 6. I'll probably just set it to 3, and then as I'm sort of doing the thing, I'll sort of put it on higher. Now the other thing is I'll be using a cheaper hot air station, Aten 858D. Now this is a genuine Aten, not the shitty stuff that's floating around on the internet. And I've had this for almost a couple of years now without any problem. And I've set the temperature to about 380 degrees Celsius, and the air flow ratio set at I'd say about 5. 8 is maximum. And I'm not being a cheap git, but I have a decent, as you can see, I've got a decent hot air station here, which is a bit noisy compared to the Aten. Just sort of get this. Okay, superb. So let's get this a bit closer. You can see what I'm doing. In fact, no, hang on, not yet. Right, now what I want to do is I want to nice and gently lift without any solder balls, sort of lifting away. Now, I need to wear my glasses because I'm a blind man. Okay, and I can see 2 solder balls have actually sort of, not bad on first attempt of today's reballing thing. So 2 solder balls have come off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cocktail stick and just wet this a little, sort of tiny amount of flux on the tip of that. Just checking for any flux, okay, and then the spare solder ball that's lying around, I'm going to grab hold onto that and just dab it onto the top. Oh, for fuck's sake. It's too much flux I put on it for that reason. It's and I'll tell you something, Kimble flux is sticky. Okay, just it does get a bit messy when the ball starts sort of thinking, and usually I do that under microscope. Okay, I need 2 more solder balls. Okay, and I'm going to give a final check on this before sort of putting it on the top of the hot plate and running a reflow profile. Okay, and I do need to check it under the microscope, so you'll have to bear with me for a second, which I'm not going to show you guys. Yep, okay, so I can clearly see what's going on here. Right, there's a little fibre that's causing a lot of a grief here on that area, and that could have been the reason why the solder ball didn't stick, because tiny little fibre. And that's come away now. Beautiful. Let me just line up these. Yep, that was the cause why it didn't sort of sit in its place, because it was on its way. So I'm going to check and make sure that the solder balls are. You will never have it perfectly sat on top of it. It will always be out by a slight. That doesn't matter because of the surface tension. It will drag the solder on top of the pads. Okay, and I'm going to have a quick look through and just make sure that there's no sort of solder ball bridging before moving this onto the hot plate. I wish I can sort of record this. Okay, so via the microscope, which is not going to happen, and I'm not going to change the glove. No chance, not messing about with that now. Right, so let's bring the camera back here. Okay, and I will probably zoom in now. Yep, let me just sort of put the BJ chip on the top of this. Okay, now what I'm going to do, let's move this now. I'm going to give this a clean after. So let's get close here. I need some nice clean white light, please. I'm going to switch this to about 6. Let the chip heat up. So if I can zoom in. That's the closest I can get. Then that's the closest I can get, basically. Okay, and I'll turn the fan on because there will be a fume out of that, so I don't like to sort of inhale that. Now I'm going to grab my hot air station. And I'll increase it to about, let's just see what the okay, just leave it for about another 10 seconds. Let the chip heat up. Got to literally hover over it. Nice and gently. Done. As easy as that. Okay, I'm going to turn the heater, switch the heater temperature down to 0, and I can comfortably turn the atom off. Just wait for the chip to cool down before sort of holding it with bare hand. And I don't need this. The extractor fan can go away. And reballing has been successfully complete. Now remember, reballing is crap, but this is a working chip, so, and I know it's a working chip, so that's one of the reasons why I've made an attempt to sort of reball in it. So yep, that's all. You know, it's done and dusted. I'll give it a good clean, and then wait for my next job. So hope you find this video useful, and all the best. Get rid of this bloody gloves. I'd never buy these anymore. This blue colour. I'd only sort of go for the black after this, hopefully, when I order my next batch of gloves. So because this is an absolute utter waste of time. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have fun. All the best. Bye for now.